All right.
He's
Well,
got his
Rich,
martini. He's all
yeah,
set.
you got first. You should probably talk us through how you make your martini, how many you
Absolutely.
have before you start tying, and how that drives your selection of fly. So I'm gonna just get going on our all this stuff. So
All right, folks, welcome to our Tying Tuesdays. I whipped up a dirty vodka martini. So it's pretty simple drink, just like my fly tying, very simple, down and dirty, but it gets the job done. So it's a single shot of Martini and Rossi dry vermouth, 2 shots of Belvedere, and shaken in a shaker on ice, and then in the martini glass it goes, and just a teaspoonful of olive juice to make it dirty, and I load that bad boy up with olives. So pretty straightforward, old school dirty martini. So yeah, let's dive right in, guys. I think
Why don't you tell everybody who you are first, Rich?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pat. So Rich Thibodeau, I'm on the Mianus board, Mianus chapter board, and work with Jeff and the team closely a lot around kind of conservation efforts and projects, as well as any fundraisers, anything else I can participate in. Have been in the chapter now, I want to say, going on 3 years, maybe a little over 3 years, and have been back fly fishing probably for about 6 years. I grew up fly fishing in the Adirondacks. Remember doing it with my grandfather using old bamboo and seeing him tie a couple of flies. Actually, it's strangely enough, one of the flies he did tie was a zebra midge type of chironomid that the brook trout in the Adirondack are pretty crazy about, that we fish deep. So love fly fishing. Kind of gave up spin casting when I went back to fly fishing. So I'm sort of a purist at this point. Have done it all, really. Steelhead, bass, northerns, all kinds of different trout. Haven't gotten into any big game fish. You'll probably hear Gerald Barafati talk about that. He does a lot of that down in Florida. I'm primarily a freshwater guy. Have done some schoolies and striper fishing on the coast here in Connecticut, because we're spoiled, obviously, with having the salt water as well as the freshwater. That's pretty much it about me. So back to the fly, guys. This is, like I said, I'm not much of a fly tyer. I only have about a dozen patterns that I tie. And I kind of tie on demand if I'm going on a trip and need something. But I think most of you are probably familiar with this fly. This is, I would say, in top 10 or 12 flies, this is kind of a standard, standard quiver in your armory. And I use this fly a lot. You can tie it with a ton of different variations. What I've kind of got on the vise right now is just really kind of the straight up kind of purist version. And you only need 4 or 5 things to tie this fly. I'm actually going to tie it on a little bit of a larger hook today. I'm actually using a fire hole 321 size 14 hook. It's a scud hook, so you can see it's got a pretty pronounced curve on it, which the chironomids typically have the tail coming around. So the other thing you'll need is black thread or red thread or any other olive thread that you want to use. I typically use the wax thread. This is just a Danville's 70 denier. And it tends to work pretty well. The other thing you're going to need is just, I use a variety of different wire sizes. This is probably a little bit too thick for this tie. I've got some ultra wire, but just some silver wire here that I use to kind of do the wrap, the spine wrap. And then the last thing, which most of you guys, I'm not sure, some of you guys probably do this on your zebra midges, but in the spring for clear water, when the water's pretty clear with the runoff and stuff, I tend to put a little bit of peacock herl on there. I also do a few other variations. I might tie 1 or 2 of these and a couple of the different variations I tie. What you see on the vise now is probably, like I said, just like sort of the boilerplate kind of textbook tie here. So The other thing that I tend to do, I know you guys probably are looking at this a little bit strangely because it's got a tungsten bead on it. I do a lot of nymphing, and the guys I nymph with, Gerald and Patrick and others, we nymph usually pretty deep, fast water. So I don't really tie this chironomid with a glass bead. I know a lot of guys do. You know, if I'm fishing shallower water in the Adirondacks and some of the small streams and creeks up there, I will use a glass bead because I don't need to get down deep. If you go out to Conecuah, you know, that's a place you want to really switch to a glass bead as opposed to a tungsten, because you're not needing to get down in that water very deep. It's not very deep anyway, for those of you that have fished it. But this fly is a great fly year round. I've used it in winter, spring, summer, fall, all year round. So the kind of the tie I'm going to show you today is really kind of a tungsten head. And what I tend to do is I oversize the tungsten bead on this thing simply to get it down fast. I mean, that's the name of the game, nymphing. As most of you guys are familiar with, you want to get that fly down fast and get it down deep and be banging on the bottom. You should be sharpening your hooks or getting hung up every few drifts. So I tend to oversize my bead. So like I said, on that size 14 fire hole hook, I'm actually putting on a, you know, it's actually a slotted bead. It's a 5/32 slotted bead that I'm going to put on there. It's a little bit heavy. It's going to look a little big on that hook, but it certainly does the trick. Let me stop there, guys. Any questions or silly comments on my spiel yet here?
That was excellent.
I don't know about that. All right, got a size 14 hook with that 5/32 bead on there. It's a pretty simple start, guys. Actually, what I'm going to do on this one, just to kind of show you guys one of the variations I use, since you got to look at kind of the textbook version. I actually like to tie a hot collar on this thing, sort of a hot spot up front, and I assume that some of you other guys do the same thing as well. So what I've got is just some really bright pink here that I'm going to kind of, let me just tie this off. No Gustavo, that tie in here, guys, that's for sure.
Yeah, come on. You're doing great.
So I'm just going to squeeze that bead up and kind of tie a tight, sort of a neon collar around this thing here. And by the way, guys, when I do this, you know, your thread is pretty much your body on these things. I tend to use a shit ton of thread on these, but I do, and Gustavo, I don't know if you do the same thing, but on these chironomids, I do finish the body off with a clear finish, a UV clear finish, because it tends to make them a little more durable. Let me just tighten this vise a little bit so it stops spinning around here. All right, so just going to whip finish that hot spot. Tighten that down. All righty. All right, can you guys see that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so after that, really kind of switching to black here. And really going to work the whole body all the way down to the bend of the hook. Just cut that thread off. And tying at an angle, you know, trying to keep that thread pretty tight on here, because we're going to want it pretty tight for our wire wrap. And I'll do that a couple of times, come back up and stop. And then I'm going to take a piece of wire here, guys. You know, I typically, for the zebra midge, I typically use a silver. This is probably maybe a 1/2 millimeter or a 1/3 millimeter wire. I'm just going to helicopter off a piece of this. Gustavo, I'm guessing you probably tied this fly like 1,000 times in your sleep, so you can probably do this blindfolded.
As a matter of fact, I usually don't tie names, but
Really?
But I had tied that fly a few times. Yeah.
Gustavo drinks too much Makers while he's tying. He's got to stick to size 10 ensemble wolves and stuff.
Yeah, I had to tie big flies. I can see them.
All right, guys, I'm just wrapping this wire on now, coming all the way down to the back here. This wire is probably a little bit too thick, but it does make a nice ribbing, so I'm just going to keep it. And again, don't be economical with the thread, because the body on these is really thread, so don't be scared to build up the body a little bit, and you got to tighten down the thread if it's as thick as I've got on here now. All right, so let me just go build up the front of this body a little bit. Go to about midpoint and then come back to kind of build up the body. All right, and we'll just hang that for a second. All right, so once that's done, I really just do the wrap, guys. See if I can do this without breaking my thread here. And this doesn't have to be pretty. Just want to get that wire wrap all the way up the hook in kind of a candy cane pattern coming up the hook. Let's get this thread out of the way. I should have put my thread holder on the vise. Now, normally when someone's not watching me, this is a pretty quick tie. But obviously, because I'm on camera, I'm all nervous and probably making a mess of this. But this is really, really a quick tie. I'm just going to kind of lock this wire down here and then helicopter it off. Yeah, this wire might be a little bit thick, but anyway, got it off. Okay. All right. So as I said, there's a few different variations you can do right at this point. What I typically do is I go with the peacock curl, just because it's got sort of that iridescent look to it. So I'm just going to pull off a piece of the peacock curl and kind of get this down there, right up front above the hot spot, or a hot collar, in front of the hot collar, or behind the hot collar, excuse me. Just clip off the excess here. All right, so I hate using my hackle pliers, so I'm gonna actually do this with my hand, see if I can do it without breaking it. And I'm going to actually wrap this peacock curl behind the hot collar. And give that a good little sort of a halo. All right, just batten that down. Trim this off. And at this point, guys, it's pretty much game over. I just do a quick whip finish. Kind of tighten that down. And then I come over and, like I said, you can leave it. You don't have to don't have to necessarily finish it with a clear finish, but I tend to do this because it makes it a little more durable. Just use my bobbin pin here and kind of spread that out a little bit. And I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera, but that hot collar is kind of a UV bright pink, and it has quite a glow to it. All right, that's enough. And I don't know if you guys can see that. That's basically the finished product. You can't see very much of that hot collar. So I wound my hackle a little bit close. But that's one variation eye tie right there. Got another one here that I actually tied earlier with some ribbon on the tail. And then I also use another one I tied, pulled out of the box, has a kind of a spinner material on the back that another variation I tie. How'd you guys end up doing? Wouldn't mind seeing. Mark, you've probably tied this 1,000 times yourself as well.
Quite a few. I do, like you, I do a lot of different variations. Tonight I put a tungsten bead on the front, and then a plastic bead that I bought at where the hell did I get these? Michael's, the little red ones, little glass bead. I don't know. It's one of those flies where when you just put a bead on and thread and wire, it works. It works great. Probably works better than sometimes in the variations, but it's one of those things where you just keep fiddling with it, and you have them with hot spots of all different colors, and they're fun. And they're great, by the way. For me, I like fishing them in a dry dropper rig in like places like Pipeline on the Farmington. And it's amazing how many hits you'll get on the dropper in that area.
Yeah, that's really interesting you say that, Marcus. So I don't tie these. Typically what I do is I wait till the day after I've seen you've been on the Farmington, and I go to the Pipeline pool, and I walk along the tree line.
Yeah, they're in there.
Just fill my box. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in there.
Just follow me all summer, Jeff. You'll have lots of tackle, I'll tell you that. All right, I'm gonna switch colors here, guys. I'm gonna actually, again, all this thread I'm using, guys, is it's 70 denier Danville's waxed, and I'm just grabbing, switching up to an olive color.
So you always use thread, right, Tibbs? You don't use like any other.
No, I only use thread on these. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point though, because I've got this stuff from Vivas called Body Quill, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got kind of a shine to it. That's fun to tie with as well. Again, I don't know if it works any better, but it's fun to make those different, variations. Something different.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think at the end of the day, if the fish are eating, they'll eat anything.
Yeah, to be honest, guys, as badly as I tie, I've had luck with my flies. So I mean, I can't complain. I just can't complain.
So true. I'm the same way.
I don't know how, but those fish are dumb enough that they're they're falling for the stuff I'm tying. So I'm not going to complain.
I've always thought that, especially on rivers like the Farmington or the Deerfield or like the Swift up in Massachusetts, when you tie your own flies, you always have an advantage because they've seen 70 versions of that Adams from the fly shop go by them, or the Griffiths Gnat. But the misshapen, oddly, shaped, weird materialed fly that you tied tricks them because they've never seen it before.
Plus,
I love-
you tie an Adams, and it really looks like a cripple, so they think it's dead or dying anyway, right?
Yep.
I love that concept, guys. That must be why
I
I'm
literally
actually
know how to tie 2 flies and I catch fish. So it's you don't have to be a professional. I started tying flies about 3 months ago. So
I hear you, man. Yeah, I probably only tie a dozen flies. I did tie some dries this year, but most of my stuff, honestly, is really nymphing oriented because I do so much nymphing with the guys. Okay.
so how do you tie off the wire? That's what did you do before? Saw you said you did some little helicopter thing.
Well, I helicoptered a wire to break it, but what I do is, let me just get a piece of. I'm going to actually use some. I'm actually going to use some gold wire on this. May not stand out as good on this olive, but I kind of like the gold and olive together. Let me just tie this wire. Yeah, what I do is I just wrap that wire really, really hard up top when I finish doing the wrap. And again, this wire is probably too thick, but I don't mind because it does give a lot. It gives additional weight to this fly, and it also builds up the body. Most of some of the other flies that I tie, I'm actually using, lead wire wrap on the body to kind of give it an extra weight. So I don't mind using thicker wire on these midges at all, these zebra midges.
So you're running the wire. You start at the bead, you work your way down, you work your way back up, and then you do a little wrap together. Or
well, I literally lay the wire right over the spine of the hook, and I wrap the thread around it and wrap it good, so it's pretty
Roger.
tight on there. And then I'll go back down and kind of build up the body a little bit, and then finish just kind of really, building up the top portion of the body. And these flies are super easy, but they're super effective. I mean, it's just amazing how something so simple could be so effective. And I've used it. I just broke my thread. I've used this fly just about everywhere I go and have had luck with it. So regardless of how poorly you tie it, it tends to be a very, very effective fly. And it's definitely, I think it's definitely in most people's kind of, in their, top 10 or 20, flies that are must-haves.
So there was a moment, Rich, where that kills my productivity right there. I refuse to buy another threading tool, so I'll spend 15 minutes trying to suck the thread through my bobbin.
Oh, yeah.
And it means I get 2 flies done and tied in a night because.
Oh, man. I've got extras. I should drop some of these to you.
I probably broke it trying to get wire through a bobbin or something at one point.
Yeah.
So David, quick question from Tony Hill is, can you and Gustavo have a challenge where you both take all your fly tying stuff from the room behind you and put it in a bag and weigh it and see who has the most?
Oh my God.
You need
Did
a
you build that
U-Haul
pegboard
for
wall yourself?
Gustavo's.
I don't know, Gustavo.
I don't know, but
Might have you beat.
I think that we need a few bags.
You probably need a whole new shed.
Yeah.
40-foot trailer.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I've got all my stuff in shoe boxes, and I got about a dozen shoe boxes. It's crazy. So I can imagine what your stuff is like, Gustavo, seeing as you're pretty hardcore.
Well, I have been tying for 22 years, and and I enjoy doing it. So every time I had a chance to get new materials, I would get them. And I did it when I was working because I thought when I retired, I can afford to buy that many materials. So now I have materials to tie it for the rest of my life. So now I don't have to worry about it.
Oh, you actually save money collecting all those materials. You don't have to buy anything else now.
Even it's not true. You always go to complete angler or things like that. You end up buying more stuff anyway. So
Now that's the problem. Every time I see a new fly, I have maybe half of the materials. So now I have to buy more materials. And then I go on to a new fly. And then I see things at the dollar store that look like, wow, that could make a good fly.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff there too, David. Wow.
How often do you walk into a shop and scratch your head and say, gee, do I have any of that? Let me buy some. When you get home, you've already got 2 packs.
Yeah.
Kind of like mustard.
Yeah,
I usually
exactly.
have about 5 jars of mustard in the fridge when I buy mustard at the store, because I can't remember if I got mustard.
Guys, I'm just adding a little bit of peacock curl to this kind of olive one I'm doing here.
Hey, that's cool.
Worth doing.
The Facebook.
Yeah.
What kind of vice is that?
It's a stonefall.
Oh,
Italian.
okay.
That one looks nice, Tibbs.
Yeah, the other, this is another color I've had a lot of luck with. It's just the olive with the gold wire. And again, with the little bit of peacock curl up there, you know, I will put some hot spot. Sometimes I put the hot spot down at the tail end, at the bend of the hook. Lately, I've been putting a collar because Gerald has had more luck with these kind of doing the, or at least has told me that he puts his hot spot as a collar up front by the bead. So I've kind of switched up a little bit. I started tying these, doing hot spots down at the bend of the hook. I did notice a little bit of an improvement when I moved the hot spot, or up to the by the hackle. So yeah, I'm kind of keeping it like that. All right.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with a hotspot, Rich. Or 2.
Oh, there he is. There's the man. Hey.
That's a really
What's
nice
up?
looking fly.
Yeah, you've probably tied this a gazillion times as well, brother.
Yeah, no, honestly, that's a really good color combo too, especially on the Farmington in the winter. I've done well with yellow looking stuff like that.
All right, so that's more of an olive variation. Again, this thing looks a little bit lopsided, guys, because I use such a large tungsten bead. Makes it a little more challenging to thread the hook, but it is, it gets down there fast. So I'll do one more, I think, and another color.
How small did you tie them?
What's that?
How small did you tie them?
Oh, I go down on these. I don't go less than 18. It's hard for me to. It's hard for me to tie smaller than that, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people go really, really small on these things. I personally don't. I find it really, really difficult to tie that small. So I really don't go too small. You guys
Get some glasses like mine.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. I probably need some stronger glasses so I can tie smaller. But again,
I
I'm
was
always
telling
yeah.
I went to Sierra Trading Post up here in Danbury
Mhm.
last week, and they have a magnifier that fits on the brim of your hat. It's not the one that pins onto the brim of your hat. This one has, it slides on, grips pretty tight.
The high-end one.
They had a bunch of them I got 5.0s because I'm blind, but they had a bunch of them hanging on the rack in 4.0, which would be really good.
Yeah, that's,
And the nice thing about them, again, they don't pin onto your hat, so you can move them from hat to hat.
yeah, that's definitely
And
what
we
I
all
needed.
have a lot of hats, right?
Or lose them off of your hats.
Actually, these ones seem like they're pretty, they're pretty tight. And if you have a hat that has a fairly robust brim, it's going to be fine.
Little head cement solve that too.
That's true. They were only $7 or no, $6. So buy half dozen of them,
Just doing this one in red, guys, and I'll probably put I'll probably put silver back on it as well, make it kind of the little more conventional pattern that you guys usually are accustomed to seeing. I'm actually going with an ultra fine wire on this one, which is a little bit easier to break off. Doesn't add as much weight, but it's much easier to work with in terms of the tie. So that's what I'm doing on this one.
And where would you put this on your setup, Tibbs?
So Gerald and I, and I think most of you guys, we run triples. I usually run this. I'll run this on top or in the middle. I certainly don't use it as a surveying pattern. I usually, I usually put this on after I've kind of run through some of my survey patterns and kind of zeroed in maybe on where a holding spot is, and then or I'll downsize from a larger fly pat and then switch to one of these midges, these zebra midges, and I'll run it in the middle or on top on my triple. So
great.
Yeah, we lose a ton of flies doing the types of nymphing that we do with like 3 fly rigs and this heavy tungsten weight. So you got to tie a bunch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a reason we spent all winter tying, huh, Gerald?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the other thing is, guys, I mean, I don't know if most of you guys have fished with Gerald and I, and you kind of are probably used to seeing us heaving a triple rig, 20, 15, 20 yards out, man, across the West Branch or across the Farmington. 40, 45, 50 feet to try and get a back slack area or a seam, on the other side of the current. And really you can't do that with flies that have a glass bead. You really need to be all kind of weighted up with tungsten with a heavy anchor fly like a Pat's rubber legs or a double tungsten yellow stone fly or something like that. And that's one of the reasons I sort of over tie these with the I go heavy on the tungsten bead, oversized. I mean, because this is a size 14 hook, and this is probably this 5/32 bead is probably better for a size 12 hook, but it is what it is. I know how I use these flies and how I like to use them, so I tend to tie them according to how we fish them, and so I guess in that respect, they're not really. I wouldn't really call them textbook because, to Gustavo's question earlier about how small you tie these, I've seen these things used on, like a 2-weight in the Adirondacks for brookies, tied in size, 20 and 22, which is just insane to try and tie this fly that small. It's just really, really difficult for me anyway. Oof. So I don't personally do it. I'll buy them that small.
Like that olive one you tied. I tie a bunch of these unweighted just with the wire.
Oh yeah,
olive and yellow, and that on the Farmington and other places. That's my go-to is that I drop behind my like sulfur dries.
Sure.
It's just gonna sink a touch, and it's very simple. You don't need a shuck. You don't need, a wing case. You just need the right general shape and a little bit of flash. I think when they're really keying in on feeding on sulfurs emerging, but not, feeding on the surface yet, or not feeling comfortable feeding on the surface, they're going to grab anything that's in that film, 2-3 inches down if it looks right. So.
Yeah, good point, Jeff. Absolutely. And you certainly don't need the tungsten. You can tie this with just the wire wrap and get a fairly good sink off of this thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Tibbs, Brian here.
Yeah. Yeah.
How close are you doing those wire wraps up the body? Can you hold up the fly closest to the camera when you're done?
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's precisely 2.3 millimeters apart, Brian.
This one is a little tighter, I'll be honest with you, because this is ultra fine. Bear with me here because my peacock burrow kind of came apart on me.
This is what I love about this is you get on the fly tying forums on social media and you see all these intricately tied and beautiful flies, and you just throw up your hands like, what am I going to do? But this is what it really looks like. Thread break, peacock curl breaks, and you go.
Listen, you won't get any pretty flies from me. I guarantee it, guys.
Fish don't mind.
I thought I was the only one that broke strings tying flies.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, if I had a finished fly for every time I broke thread on a fly, I probably wouldn't have to tie again for the rest of my life. All right, and that's. Again, guys, it's not super pretty, but with the ribs, I think you can kind of see a little bit better, Brian.
No, your nose is in focus, but no.
Yeah. That's tight, eh? Yeah.
Well, they're tight on this one because I used an ultra fine wire wrap.
Sorry, Can you show me the other one that you tied? I'm just in comparison.
Yeah. So this is a thicker wire wrap here.
Okay, it's still pretty tight. All right, cool.
And again, guys, you know, there's a lot of different variations on this. I tied, this one earlier with a hot spot. You can put the hot spot up front. You can put it in back. I also tied, I got some Antron, or actually some spinner material here, and just kind of tied a little bit, sort of like an emerger. What I would also do is tie, behind the peacock curl, I would tie just the tuft of this spinner material as well. That's another variation I tie that I've had luck on. But that's really kind of a taste of this fly. And this is, I kind of refer to this zebra midge as the idiot's fly because I can tie it. And so I think if I can tie it, anybody can tie it. Start its size, if you need to, start at size 14 and work your way down. I have tied this down to size 18, but I don't go much smaller than that. But it's a very effective fly.
What is your favorite color?
My favorite color is actually, believe it or not, is the black and silver.
Okay.
With a hot spot on it. Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, I've tied it. I'll show you a couple. I got some very strange wire wraps that I've done some patterns on. I've got some wire wrap in like cranberry and teal. I've tried all these different wire wrap patterns, and I haven't had nearly as much luck as I have on the straight black with the hot collar and the silver wire for some reason, Gustavo. That's, for me, has been a very productive fly. So yeah.
Closer to the natural, probably.
And what color do you use for the hot spot?
I just use this. It's a neon pink.
You always use the same?
No, I go with a neon orange as well. I kind of go back. I kind of use both. The one I have a lot of luck with is really the neon pink. I don't know why, but these both are UV, so they do glow under under fluorescent light. They'll glow underwater because of the UV radiation in the sunlight. I just, for some reason, I just tend to. I guess this pink maybe is a little more provokes more of an aggressive response than the orange. But I'll try them both just so I have a little variation in the box, Guys, any questions? Like I said, this is it's kind of a no-brainer, this tie. But the beauty about it is you can, to Mark's point, you can try, I honestly, I've probably tied on this zebra midge, with I've even gotten to the point where I take I'm taking some chenille, and instead of doing a peacock curl, I'll take a very tight chenille and wrap the chenille around the head and give it a little bit of a head in a bunch of different chenille colors. So that's effective as well.
I would tie this in a when I was in college in Ohio in like a black and blue or purple and black, and use it as a dropper, even down to like size 16 and 18 for steelhead in the Erie tribs. A lot of those steelhead grow up in the rivers. I'd have an egg on and a little size 16 or 18, and you're catching 5 and 7 and 10 pound steelhead on tiny little midges and stuff. But I think probably the lowest I ever went down with them was like an 18, but that was almost like the one you're holding there, but tying it almost like a Quasimodo pheasant tail, without the tail.
Yeah, it's crazy you say that because I was actually watching because I haven't gotten out for steelhead this year, was watching some Pacific Northwest steelhead videos on YouTube this week, and these guys were crushing like 10, 15 pound steelhead, with size 16, size 18 midges and zebra midges, like just basic zebra midge patterns on the Pacific Northwest. I guess the steelhead out there think these are the best.
Well, I mean, if anywhere you have a wild or naturalized population, I mean, they spent a year and a half in the river system. I find it especially with the spring dropbacks, will feed just really aggressively on small bug patterns because they're trying to fatten up and just eat everything, but that's what they remember eating when they were 4 inches long in that same river system.
Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Hey, Gerald, have you caught any steelhead up on the salmon on any midge patterns? Just out of curiosity.
No, honestly, no. That was a big surprise for me to hear. That's pretty amazing that they would eat such small bugs. But like what Jeff was saying, it does make sense. Like if you think about it, those fish spending time in the river, midges make up, the majority of the biomass of, macroinvertebrate life in the river. So it would make sense they're used to seeing it and would eat it. But I've had luck on stonefly patterns. Some of the variations of the Pat's rubber legs that I'm going to tie in a couple of weeks will be some of those crazy colored like purple and chartreuse pink ones that you even showed me too. So that should be fun. But no, that is awesome though. Seeing midge, that would be cool to see midget, steelhead on a midge. Yeah,
well, I think it's just a matter of time. I mean, I rotate them through when I'm up there. Mm-hmm. I haven't had luck yet, but I've caught a shit ton of trout on this pattern. So yeah. We'll see what happens.
I feel like I smell a post-COVID salmon river tournament, the Chromers on Chronomids tournament, where you're only allowed to fish flies under size 16.
Oh my God!
I like it. I'm in.
Yeah, definitely sign me up, man. There may be some frustrated anglers, but.
Yep.
All right, guys. Any questions? I mean, that's kind of, like I said, very, very simple. Lots of different variations you can work in. I'm sure you guys probably have this in kind of your back pocket as one of your go-to flies. Like I said, I do, I use Antron for the tail. Sometimes I switch. I've got some pearl tinsel I use. And then I've even worked in, instead of the peacock curl, I do use chenille because chenille's really, really fast. You can get a quick tie with that without messing around with the peacock curl, which breaks every 5 seconds. And you got to be really ginger with. If you're looking to tie these with with that collar up front with something with a little sparkle, the chenille goes on really, really fast. I've known, I do that from time to time. So.
Have you tried a fluorescent bead head as a hot spot?
I've got some like chartreuse and pink beads that are actually glow in the dark. They're kind of UV reactive as well. I did tie up some of those. Actually, Gerald recommended me to tie up some kind of what I refer to as kind of disco jewelry that we were going to use on the Salmon River last year. I didn't really get any hits on some of these. I know Gerald has. I didn't get any hits on any of these crazy bead colors. I tied. They weren't zebra midges so much, but I used those fluorescent beads on some other ties, like it's a sort of an Estats with the bead head and then a squirmy tail. I tied some pretty funky colors, but I haven't tried it on the zebra midge. That might be something to do. I know. Do you guys tie your zebras with glass beads mostly? I know a lot of folks just use glass. They don't even use tungsten on these zebra midges, but the glass beads have so many different colors that you can work in. Gustavo, I know you do.
No, I tie with glass beads.
Yeah.
I've never tied any of these, so now I have to go get some more material.
That's good.
Wait a minute. Is that all your stuff behind you, man?
Oh, it's part of it.
Holy Lord, man.
I've got some drawers too here. I don't know if you can.
Jesus, criminals, man.
I thought that you were in the fly shop.
I hope you're on the schedule.
I thought he was in a fly shop as well.
We gotta
I'm-
get you
I'm-
on the schedule if you're not already.
I'm more of a collector than a tyer and a fisherman. I see it and it's like, oh, a bright shiny thing. I need it.
Well, no, you got to do a tie. You got to do a Tuesday tie. I want to see what one of your pet flies is.
Oh, we could probably do something like that. I've been fooling around with a few different ones.
Yeah, I'm worried we won't have the materials that you need because you got so much stuff back there. I'm wondering if I'm gonna have what we need, what I need. Whoa,
That's one of my newer ones.
what is that? Like a leech?
Well, it could be a leech, probably. It's I tie it. I call it my shimmer fly.
That's
Looks
definitely
like
a
something off
steel.
a pole dancer.
Definitely
Yeah.
a steelhead color.
I was in I think it was in Michael's or Joanne's or something, and I saw these on the shelf.
Oh yeah, I have one of those ones.
I've got
Yeah, I've got a
every
few of those
color.
myself.
Yeah, these are pretty easy to tie. It seemed that in the water would shape it a little bit thinner, and it's got a lot of flexibility. So it's you could probably put a glass bead and a little bullet head and do a glass and brass like you're using a rubber worm or something like that too. But there's a lot of different colors that you can tie with these. I haven't tried it yet. I've been tying these this year, and as soon as it gets a little bit warmer down there, I'll try it.
I think you're gonna like the action on that. Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you. I think you're gonna like the action on that because that nice long tail gives it a lot of movement. I've done those up at the Farmington. They're great. They
Yeah.
really are.
The thing I found though is I have to at the tail end. I mean, it's thread that creates the chenille wrap. So if you don't put a little bit of UV cement or some kind of cement on the tip tail, it might unravel. But it should have a nice profile and good action. Anxious to try it. Got the Lake Lillonona behind my house, so should be good on bass or pike.
Good testing ground.
Yeah.
David, did you poke up Pond Brook at all this year?
I looked at it a couple of times and I wanted to, but I just didn't have the time. But I'm gonna try to do that.
So one of the secrets when I was writing my book, Tony was my wingman on a lot of those rivers like Pond Brook and some of the others that we hit. This is the time of year we were fishing them because we were too busy during the busy time of the year. So it's actually you get a day that's 40 degrees. Park right there up on Obtuse, right on the corner there, and check out that Newtown Forest Association land. You'd be surprised. I've always wanted to hit that in prime time just to see if any big browns are coming up out of the lake. Even without a rod, just to see if fish are coming up to spawn.
Sure.
In there, but
is this in Connecticut, guys?
Yeah, it's in the Newtown Brookfield border. Pond Brook comes out of Taunton Pond in Newtown, crosses under Route 6, then under 84, and then goes down into Lake Lillonona.
Sounds like a road trip.
Yeah, I think I might do that the next time it warms up a little bit.
Yeah, and what you want to do is the reason you need a 40-degree day is because at 3 o'clock when you're done fishing, you run up to Newtown and hit. Oh God, what's the brewery? Legitimus? No, Legitimus is on the Farmington. Reverie Brewery. Thank you, John.
Reverie Brewery.
Which is right there. And after you've had 2 beers, then run down to the Putatuck.
Jeff, I get the feeling you've done this before.
Yes. Yes.
Just
usually about Tuesday at 9 a.m. That's
Yeah, we'll do that.
Well, gents, any questions or anything else you want to? I mean, again, not a lot to kind of discuss about this fly. This is down and dirty zebra midge, and it's a lot of different variations. So.
Hey, I love it. It's nice and easy.
Yeah, I seriously.
Good for a beginner.
I hear you, man. That's why I tied the shit out of this with a lot of variations, and it's effective too. Have you fished this fly yet?
I have not.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Yeah, very effective.
Thank
How'd
you
you
for the very. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Again.
I was going to say, I'm curious to see how you guys did. Anybody want to show a fly? I mean, I'm sure you guys all did pretty well. This it's not a super tough tie, but.
Mine are kind of small.
Oh, I like that, Mark.
Clean
Let
habit.
me see. I'll probably drop it on the floor. And it won't be in focus, but
What size did you tie, Mark?
I tied a 20.
Damn, that's tiny. That's beautiful. A nice hot spot up there. I like that.
That's just a red glass bead.
Oh, okay.
See if
Well,
I can-
good luck tying that on the line.
with my 5.0 flip down lenses, I'm good. It's the fat fingers that get me now.
Anybody else got one to show off? Brian, how'd you do? You've probably tied this one before, Brian.
Yeah, Tibbs, I'm actually down in the Naples, Florida area at the moment. So I don't have my tying kit with me. So I'm just watching you guys tie there. So I have to hit it up.
Gotcha. Here you, dude. No worries. When are you back?
Probably mid-Feb. We'll head back in mid-Feb. Came down just before Christmas, and so spending a bit of time down here.
Good. So we'll have to hit the Farmington up.
Hey, Dave, show that again.
Somebody else have a fly they wanted to show off? Anybody else tie one?
Yeah. Oh wow, look at that. Got a nice collar going on there.
I don't know. I didn't see that.
David, if you unmute and speak, you'll pop up as the speaker. That'll help.
I forgot I was on mute. But it's.
Oh, I like that.
It's. I used red floss. I didn't know what I was tying at the time. I was fishing down in Missouri, and I saw some little bugs that I kicked up, and they were red, and so I used red floss. I know it's kind of tough to get a good look at it.
No, it's
we can
definitely
see it.
Red floss with a little this I don't know, I can't remember what you call these little fine tails, sparkle, and use that as kind of a rib. It didn't stick out, and then I dubbed a little black collar on it to give it kind of a look of a head.
I like it. I like the colors too.
Dave, use that hook next week.
David, I assume you were fishing right here. Table Rock, right outside of Branson.
No, it was. It
Right near
wasn't.
the fish,
Where the
fish
heck was
hatchery.
it?
So the reason I asked, so I was at an event in Branson, Missouri for TU, and one of my most memorable Midge times was fishing. See this shoal here?
Yeah.
It was crazy because my buddy and I, he's a West Coast steelheader, I'm a brookie guy. We waded out and we were just hammering this cut right here. We were standing probably knee deep on this gravel shoal because the water flow was higher, and we were just fishing the cut. We couldn't get anything, and turned around, and there were like 200 fish in like a foot of water with their tails coming out of the water, just feeding on midges and on off the rocks in this what they call a shoal. And we turned around, switched to small flies, and just picked up fish after fish after fish. But it's one of my I remember that moment because it was like, what are we doing wrong?
Midge heaven, yeah.
Every fish should have been in this deep cut. It was awesome. It was gorgeous. We were even throwing like 4 inches of meat flies through there, and mop flies just because they have shad get chewed up by the turbine. And we couldn't figure it out. We turn around and the fish are all right behind us.
Size 18 midges.
Yeah, actually, it wasn't too far from there. It was Bennett Springs State Park.
Okay, yep.
By Lebanon. and it's thick with trout and crystal clear water, and so you could walk through there and kick up bugs and scuds and different things and see what they're actually eating. And so I saw these little reddish worms, so I thought I'd try them.
Imitate. Yeah.
Yeah.
See?
Hey, if you guys aren't doing anything tomorrow night, CVTU's having our chapter meeting. If you go to our Facebook page, there's probably a post there that has information on it. And if you want to join via Zoom, be my guest.
Yeah, we got our chapter meeting tomorrow as well. We bumped it from last week.
Okay.
Board meeting tomorrow night.
Yeah, board meeting.
Mark,
Our board meeting, I mean, not chapter, board. Yeah.
Mark, do you have a guest speaker?
It's just me and Paul Schaefer. Just telling some. I'm going to talk about my multiple trips to the Green River in Utah, and he's going to be sharing some stories about fishing for brook trout in Labrador.
Wow.
That's the guest speakers. So
Two great spots.
not too exciting, but I got some great pictures.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
We've been having a
Yeah. Well, anybody else, if you're not on that board meeting, join us.
we've had a lot of luck getting guest speakers to do presentations.
Yeah, we have a couple lined up for February and March. We just ran out of time coming out of the holidays, and one guy we talked to, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the guy. I can't pronounce his last name. He has the website Trout Bitten. It's a great website. He writes a great
Dominic
blog.
Sawinski.
Yes, Dominic.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
He's
he was too
amazing.
expensive. Yeah, he wanted too much money for
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we might do him, get him later. I would rather have him, pay for him to be in person,
Yeah.
But so we couldn't do it for January. We're gonna have Tim Camisa in February. I think most people know who he is. And then we've been communicating with Tim Flagler as well. So yeah.
Spring's right around the corner, boys.
Yes, it is.
You think?
Can't come fast enough.
You're not
We're
kidding.
doing our trees for trout again this Saturday. We collected 300 plus trees.
How many did we get?
206 in Wilton and over 100 in Stanford.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Hey, how's the Mayanas fishing? Is that worth going to?
not with the
I
water
haven't been
here
out.
by you, Mark. I mean, it's fishing fine, but it's, I'm not sure it's worth an hour drive plus for you. I mean, there's fish there for sure, but
Friday would be a good day.
you always think it's a good day, man.
I'm looking at
No, Friday. I think Friday temperature will
Thursday.
go up to 47.
Yeah.
So
That's the magic number is like 45, and then
yeah, so you will see little
That's
stoneflies, very little, like a size 18. And
Okay.
and a lot of midges. When the temperature go to maybe 40, 42, they start rising to midges, and then we go to like a 40, 45, 47, you start seeing the little stoneflies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking at the water flows, and the Farmington's at a nice level.
Yeah, Farmington is. I love going there in the winter. Actually, you get less numbers.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Housatonic is right at 800.
Yeah, it's still humming. Mike Galt was up at Macedonia Brook in Kent this weekend. Saw a good number of fish. That was when I bet that. And have you ever fished Macedonia, Mark?
I haven't.
For me, one of the beauties this time of year is like when your expectations of the number of fish you're going to catch is lower. It's a perfect time to go like check out a new water. So that's, go to Kent, turn left, follow the signs to Macedonia Brook, and the campground road and the state park runs along the river. You can pull off anywhere, and that's all wild browns and native brookies.
So like the 7.5 foot 4-weight is the ticket there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
The small go light.
and these are short days, so it's tough. But a little later into the early spring, you can hit that and the Hoosie.
Yeah. All right.
Cool beans. Well, hopefully, so Mark's tying a clink hammer. That's the fly next week. And
Nice.
And then we'll just keep rolling. So keep telling folks and join us, and hopefully next year we're doing this in person. Although we'll probably have to find a way to incorporate sharing it on Zoom and Facebook Live, and even when we're together in person. On the good news front, I did get a sample / draft contract from the city of Stamford for the Red Barn. If you've ever been to Mianus River Park,
Yeah.
what I'm do is lease the Red Barn, for $1 a year for the next 25 or 50 years.
That's good.
And it's got some usable space. It actually has a awesome room with a chandelier and a fireplace in it that would be perfect for fly tying. So stay tuned on
Does
that.
that fireplace work?
We'll have to clean it and get it inspected, and probably take a couple dead raccoons out of it. But otherwise it'll work. The big thing is it's working with the city while we're starting the conversations now. We technically started the conversations in December of 2019, so it's going to be slow progress. I want to get a document signed so we can move forward.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's lots of work. The sooner we get a document signed, the sooner we can raise money to get the work done. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the city did pay for environmental hazards assessment by Fuss and O'Neill. That was kind of our ask of them, and I was pleased. I mean, the city spent like $20,000 having professional firms go in and assess the building. The sad thing, which we knew, is they found lead, mold, and asbestos in certain places. And outlined about $85,000-$90,000 worth of just environmental mitigation cleanup that has to happen to make that entire space usable. Not before you even talk about renovations, and that doesn't include scraping and repainting the lead paint on the exterior. So it's got a lot of work, but from day one, there's certain spots we can start using. So that'll be big and a lot of fun. So
absolutely.
Gerald's
all right, gents.
Hey, that was awesome. Thank you very much.
Good job.
Night, everybody.
Thanks.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining,
Hopefully
guys.
I'll join
We'll
the
see-
CVTU tomorrow night.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll
See ya.
see you guys next
Night, everybody.
Tuesday.
Okay, guys.
Take care, guys. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Hey.